Meanwhile, in the Senate Republicans are making good on their promise not to vote to raise the debt ceiling. Every Senate Republican yesterday voted against a measure that would fund the government and make sure the country does not default on its debt. Republicans argue Democrats should pass it themselves through reconciliation because the GOP doesn't support future spending bills.
So let me make it abundantly clear one more time. We will support a clean continuing resolution. We will not provide Republican votes for raising the debt limit. There's no chance Republicans will help lift Democrats' credit limit so they can immediately steamroll through a socialist binge that will hurt families and help China.
The Republican Party has now become the party of default, the party that says America doesn't pay its debts. Keeping the government open and preventing a default is vital to our country's future, and we'll be taking further action to prevent this from happening this week.
We certainly know Republicans are raging hypocrites, especially so in the era of Trump, and we obviously are still in the era of Trump. Here's a party that spent like drunken socialists. You talk about socialists. This Republican Party spent like drunken socialists over the past 5 years. They racked up record levels of deficits, record levels of debts. The bills that Donald Trump and Mitch McConnell approved, the budgets, the largest budgets in the history of the Republic. Let me say that again. The Republican budgets were the largest in the history of the Republic and ran up record deficits and record debt. And that's the bill, actually, that has come due now. We're not talking about what happens in the future. We don't know what's going to happen in the future. You don't default at your bank for debts that you may accrue in the future. You default because of what you've already done. And right now, Jonathan Lemire, this is Trump debts. This is McConnell debts. This is McCarthy debts. This is the Republican Party's debts. Again, during their socialist spending spree, and by the way, if they're calling people socialists, right? Like Trump is calling people socialists, McConnell calling people socialists. Hey, socialists are big spenders, right? Well, the Republicans spent more. Let me say this again. I know this is hard for people to figure out. Republicans spent more money on budgets over 4 Trump years than any president before. LBJ, FDR, you name it, Jimmy Carter, Bill Clinton, you pick the Democrat, you pick the person that was lied about being called a socialist. Republicans spent more money. And so now they don't want to pay their own bill. And they say, we're not going to pay our own bill because Democrats are socialists. Let me ask you, Lemire, when we go to Fenway, can we try that? Like, can we order a whole lot of food and like the EMC Club and just have them, if they let us in, and just pile the food up and just keep piling the food up? 1,000, 2, bring us your best wine. I want that whiskey. Bring it. Hey, bring us an Ortiz signed jersey. We get a $50,000 bill, okay? And it's just stacked up high. And then they come and they go, Mr. Lemire, here's your bill. Can we turn and say, we're not going to pay this because Barnacle's a socialist?
Well, first of all,
that's what Mitch McConnell's doing right now. That's what the Republican Party's doing right now. They're telling Americans they're going to let the country default on its debt, which would be economically devastating because they're not going to pay their own bill.